kind of not a hard way to go ahead. I've taken my seam ripper and I've made a couple cuts. Remember, I did this as a basting stitch, so it's not real bad. So what I'll end up doing is I'll just take my ripper and just gently tap the threads. Don't tap your skin, but just tap the threads and see how easy that comes off. That's not too bad. It just, you know, I see some people doing one of these things for an hour, and it's like, man, you can just slice it so easy with your ripper. Just be mindful. Don't try to slice your fabric. Okay, so what I want to do is I'll go ahead and do it even more, just so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Should have done this just a few minutes ago. Okay. I want to reinforce right in here with my shape flex. So I'm making my shape flex bigger so that I kind of get the sweet spot right there. And this way, when my button is applied, it's got a pretty good area where I can apply it. Okay, so that's reinforced. That'll be easy. Then what I'll do is, so you've got a little bit of a reinforcement right in here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'll just rebase this, and then we'll be done with the outside. Almost. We are almost done with the outside, but if you take a look at the outside, I put my button on this piece, you know, right there. But I got to put my loop, my strapping, I've got to put my strapping here. You can see it right here. I put my strapping here so that it wraps around and it grabs my button. So what I've done is I've cut from my button strap 7 inches, roughly 7 inches long, and we'll cut it down a little bit. I think this is longer than 7 inches by 2 inches wide. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll kind of bring it up like this. I shape flex this only because I cut it from a piece of fabric that had already been shape flexed, so I just left it shape flexed. You don't absolutely have to have it shape flexed. It's not real critical if you just use just plain fabric. You don't have to have it shape flexed. So I put these together where they meet in the middle, and then I'm going to go ahead and, because sometimes you won't know where to exactly put the button until you get an idea of how much junk you have in your wallet. You know, if you've got a really bunch of big junk in your wallet, instead of your button being up here, your button may be down here, you know, to accommodate the bulk and the width of your wallet. So I won't put my button on until the very end. What I'll do with this here is I'll go ahead and sew this down. Okay, so this was roughly 7 inches wide, or 7 inches long by 2 inches wide. You bring them together with the raw edges together and you fold it. That gives a nice-ish look, you know, and then my button is going to look like, kind of like that, you know, so it'll go around. It doesn't need to be shape flex at all. It can be non-shape flex, so it doesn't need to be shape flex, but this just happens to be shape flexed. Okay, so this is 7 inches. Now it's 7 inches by 2. I'm going to put that together and I'll make it kind of pretty. I'll make a little wedge at the top. Come on. She's bulky because she's got that shape flex in her. Don't have to do this either, but it's kind of cute. She is bulky. So yeah, that looks nice. So anyway, this goes, so that looks good. Okay, so this one goes, turn this over the button. Remember, the button goes right here. So this one here is where your button strap is. And here is, you know, we've made that little ditch mark right in here, but we're roughly looking at center. So we'll put it where it doesn't matter because this can flip anyway, but we'll put it where, to me, the right side of this, that's the right side. You know, that's the right side. That, to me, is the wrong side, but it's your call. So we're going to go ahead and put it right side down. And we'll put it right in the center of our, we're going to put it in the center of that middle pocket, okay? And then you can go ahead and wonder clip it. And then we'll go ahead and baste this down by about 1/8 of an inch. Your final basting, your final sewing of this thing will be at 1/4 inch. So I just want to get it down right now. So this has been basted down, you know, and I did it probably slightly less than 1/4 of an inch or whatever. And then what'll end up happening is then when you put it all together, this goes up here. This will wrap around the front and you'll put your button in, and it just depends on how bulky your wallet is. Generally with me, my button will probably go, my wallet is not that bulky, but I'll probably put it right about there. But I won't do it yet until I figure out where I'm going. So now, I think we are dangerously done with our wallet outside. Where am I? And you can trim a little bit, but all that's going to be taken care of. So we're done with our wallet outside, so let's play our wallet inside. Our wallet inside is, you can grab it here. This is the inside lining. Again, I use this fabric right here. This is your inside lining. If you take a look, your inside lining still is 9 inches. That's fine. But it is 1 inch longer. It is 1 inch longer than your outside lining. Your outside lining was, let's see, outside lining was 9 inches by 11.5, 9 inches wide by 11.5 long. This is 9 inches wide by 12.5. And you're saying, why the extra inch? Because what we're going to do, and this is where you're able to turn this inside out, we're actually going to cut this in half. You can see on this wallet right here, see how I've cut that in half? I've cut that in half because that lets me pull everything to the right-hand side, and I don't have any handwork to do. So this is really nice, but I need room. I need seam allowance, so I've given myself an extra inch. What I'm going to do, so it's 12.5 inches long, I'm going to cut it in half, okay? So you will shape flex it as normal, and you will cut this in half, so you'll have 2 pieces for your inside lining. Okay, my inside lining was cut 1 inch longer, okay? And then what I did was, well, I guess it goes like this. It doesn't really matter, So I cut it in half, so it still is 9 inches, but instead of 12.5, it's 6 1/4 or something like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it together, right sides together. Okay, so it's still, just so that you can reorient, just so that you understand what you're doing, this is going to be your 9 inches right here. Okay, so this remains solid, this remains the same. We've cut it so that you've got 2 pieces of lining now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down, about, how long is that? 2-ish inches, 1 3/4, 2 inches. And I'm going to come down with a 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stitch. I'm going to stitch 1/2 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to reverse stitch a little bit. And I'm going to come down, leave this open, because I've got to pull this thing through. And I'm going to come down here and do another 1/2 inch seam allowance, and leave this piece open. Like I said, I've got to pull all this through. So go ahead and do that, and then I'll get right back to you. Okay, so I'll show you from the other side, because then you can see where I've sewn. I've sewn, 1 3/4-ish right here and right here. I've left this open, okay? So now I have, it's still 9 inches, I haven't changed that. Let's go ahead, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, open this up, don't do anything, and then we'll just go ahead and iron this. So, because I've given myself an extra inch of length, I've taken up the inch with my 1/2 inch seam allowances. So now this piece is, surprisingly enough, in the perfect world, the same size, and it is. It's the same size as my outer lining. So everything works. So what I've got is, let me see if I can move this up so you can see a better bird's eye view here. So now I've got the same amount of lining, I just have an opening here so I can pull all this stuff through to the other side. So 1.5 here-ish gives you enough. 1.5 I think will give you enough to let you squeeze it through. Not too much, because then you have to rip it out because you can't squeeze it through. So that should be good. Now that's the inside lining. Okay, it's been shape flexed. It doesn't have that hard stabilizer on it. The only one that has the hard stabilizer, the Pellon 926, is your outside lining. Okay, so that one, now this one here, let's go ahead and make some, we already know that these are center marks because we've sewn them. We'll go ahead and make some tick marks here. We'll go make some registration marks just to get an idea where center is. So here's one. Baby little snippies. Okay. Snippy and snippy. Okay. Then what we'll do is this one here, we made our little snip marks before. It just helps us line us up. So go ahead and put that on. And again, the reason why we did our shape flex narrower than our fashion fabric on this piece only is because it gets real bulky. You know, I'll be honest with you, it gets pretty bulky. So I've got it like that. And then I'll also go ahead and line it up here and make sure that I'm pretty dead on. You know, so I like that. Okay, so we like that. So that's that piece, and then oh, shoot. Okay, so I like that, and we can always baste that on. And I'm okay with this hanging out, because I'm going to sew, when I sew this together, I'm going to sew on the wrong side, or the lining side, and I'm going to sew it down. I just want to make sure I catch all this, because if you don't catch all this, it's a pain. Okay, so that is that piece right there. Then we had our zippered pocket. Okay, so your zippered pocket, let's go ahead and get center of your zippered pocket. It's not critical, but we can get in the vicinity of center. Just want to make sure you can see it. Sorry if I'm kind of floating around here. So that's center. And I want to get that lined up nicely. Now, too, what you could have done, too, is, you know, if you've got Made with Love or you've got your own happy, you know, tags, you can put your tag on kind of now if you wanted. You could go ahead and lift this up right here, this one up, and then you just could go ahead and put a tag right here and say, you know, and I may do that. I may put a tag right here like I've done here, you know, where I've done my, you know, peregrine designs, and I can put a tag right there. If you don't have a tag, no worries, but you can do something kind of pretty right there to kind of embellish it just slightly. So you can do that, okay? And the only thing that we have to do on this one, if I'm not mistaken, is we got to do our D-rings. Okay, we got to put our D-rings on because I want to put the lanyard on. I want to give myself the option of a lanyard. If you don't want to do a lanyard, don't do the D-rings, okay? But this is, we're almost done here. To do the D-rings, oh, and we need to do a pen holder. To do a D-ring, your D-rings are basically, I cut a 3 by 5. I guess this is 3 inches by 5 inches. And I cut that. Obviously, this is shape flex because this was leftover fabric. So I'll go ahead and leave it shape flex. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. Let's get those D-rings. Let me get those D-rings and I'll show you how to size those up. To do the D-rings, because I'm going to do 2 D-rings because I'm giving myself the option of a wristlet or a crossbody thing. I may not ever use that, but I'll give myself that option. I cut a piece of fabric, roughly 3 by 5. We'll cut it down a little bit, but it's the same principle as the button loop, kind of, sort of. Here's the center of this. And again, this is shape flexed. To tell you the truth, I'm not so sure you absolutely need to shape flex it, but again, it gives it a little bit more stability. This is not a heavy wallet by any stretch, so I think you could get away with no shape flex, but it is, so there you have it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it together this way. I'm going to put it together this way, raw edges together, and then I'm going to put it together this way. And I'm going to size this. These are 3/4 inch D-rings. I'm going to put my D-ring through. That's about the right size. You know, that looks pretty good right there. That looks all right. So that is what I'm going to do, and then you press it. Okay, take it to the sewing machine and go ahead and sew that. You could, to tell you the truth, if you didn't want to sew that, you could shape flex that, and that would be fine, because it just doesn't get a lot of maneuver room here. It just gets no, there's nothing really maneuvering. So even if you shape flexed it, it's not going to come loose. So I don't have a problem with it if you just go ahead and stitch witchery this piece together. That would be fine, actually. So I'll go ahead and do that, because it works. I mean, it works really well. So I'll go ahead and put in some shape flex, because we're going to end up cutting this down a little bit too. I'm going to go ahead and put it reasonably tight to the end. Don't have it hanging out too much, because it'll gum up your iron. This is a nice piece. When I got this iron, I also, on Amazon, let me show you this iron. When I got it, I found this sole plate that was really neat. This is a 400-hole sole plate. I looked for it again, but they didn't have it anymore, so you'll just have to find something that works. But it's really nice, because it's a Teflon sole plate, so I don't worry so much about crap getting all over the base of my iron. So I really like the sole plate, and it is really gentle on fabric. I can come at more delicate fabrics, and I run less of a risk of scorching my fabric. So I do like my sole plate. So I've stitch witcheried that, so that's nice and tight. So what we're going to do is I'm going to leave these, and I'm going to cut these at 2 inches, okay? Because I don't need a lot of overhang here. I just don't want a lot of overhang, and so 2 inches is about as much as I want, because by the time I'm done, I just get a little bit, because anything longer and it hangs out too much, and I don't like that. So 2 inches is about where I need. So I'm going to cut 2 inches here. Let's do it this way. 2 inches here. So 5 inches may be a bit more than what you need, and it is, but you can pitch the rest. Okay, so that's 2 inches. And so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this together here. And I guess to get it so that it's not so I start to convince it to go this way. Where's my other D-ring? There it is, in here. There's just not a lot of maneuver room in there. I think you can stitch witchery and get away with it pretty well. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this to the machine, okay? And I'm going to put this together. I'm going to put this, remember this is just a sewing principle that tends to always stay the same. The raw edge goes to the raw edge, be it the button loop, be it something else. The raw edge goes to the raw edge, okay? And so that's just a rule of thumb. And I'm going to go ahead and put that down, and I can go ahead and do my little wonder clips here. Where's my other one? There it is. And do it here. And I'm centering it on my seam allowance, okay? So that is looking pretty spectacular. So I'm going to go ahead and baste that down, and I'm going to baste all the way around here. Make sure, pull your zipper back out, baby girl. You don't pull that zipper back out, and you do it over here, and then you got a hot mess on your hands, so go ahead and pull that zipper, here, and then go ahead and baste this down. And a lot of times, what I told you, which is really helpful, baste it down. Let me get myself back up so you can see a little bit more, sorry. Baste it down from the wrong side, okay? Because that way I know that everything has been pulled together, that I have no gaps. So let me go ahead and do that. Oh, before I do that, I forgot. Let me do this pen holder, because I do want a pen holder. I want this thing right here. What it is it's a 2x3. This is too big, but I'll go ahead and cut it down. But it's roughly 2x3, and we'll go ahead and I'll show you how to do that. Same principle as we've been doing before, but let me go ahead and show you how to do that. Okay, with the pen holder, it's roughly 2x3, and let me show you what I did, because basically you're fiddling with it and everything. This is the 3-inch, and this is the 2-inch right here. So I did, and I've pre-creased it. I put in really kind of narrow little creases, 1/4-inch creases here, okay? And then you can fold it, because that's not a bad width for a pen. That's pretty good looking for a pen, but you got to do something with these raw edges right in there. So what I end up doing is I fold it in here, okay? And then I slice a little piece of it out so that it doesn't peek out. And I've sliced everything, but I haven't sliced this piece here. So I'm going to go ahead and take my scissor and slice it. Yeah, so it's kind of wedgy like that. And then you can kind of pull it down and you can fiddle with it. And again, this is easy to stitch witchery. I would go ahead and stitch witchery. This thing, I wouldn't sew it. It's a pain. If you put it... So let's go ahead and stitch witchery this down. That's about right. I can get a pen in there. That's not too bad looking. You're just fiddling with it. Let's go ahead and put some stitch witchery in it. I might put a little bit more, because I've got this thing. You do not need to shape flex it, but again, this was a piece of remnant, little baby remnant fabric that I had, so I said, well, hey, babe, I'll just go ahead and... Okay, so I like that. That's good. Now, when I put it on, okay, here is your wallet, okay? Here's the join, okay? I don't want to put the join up like this, because my pen is always going to go in, it's always going to go in like that. And so then you run more of the risk of your join becoming unjoined over the course of time. But if I put my join on the bottom, then that means that when I put my pen in, it never messes with the join. It only comes in contact with the fold. It's just a way that I just don't have a tendency to have a big worry about my pen kind of unhinging this join after a while. Where do you put it? Put it about... let's see, 2 inches in from the inside here is about right. Let me see, make sure that I'm right. Yeah, about 2 inches. Taking a look at my other one. Yeah, about 2 inches down, okay? So this, and then I center it here, okay? So about 2 inches from the raw edge. You could go a little bit narrower than that. You could go 1 3/4. That'd be fine. Because I want to be able to get a pen in there pretty comfortably. And then what I'm going to do is when I go to the iron, I'll go ahead and kind of push this down just a little bit. When I go to the iron, I'm just going to tack it right here. I'm just going to tack it right here, and I'm going to tack it right here. Okay, it's not going to impact on this, because this is an open pocket. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to baste all the way around. Okay, I'm going to baste this, and I'm going to tack this at this edge here. I'm going to tack it right down at that edge right there. Okay, and this is roughly 1 3/4 to 2 inches from the raw edge. Okay, and I'll be right back.